Very exciting. Hello, everyone. This is Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy, and we have Carrie Roldan.
Hey, everybody.
We just wanted to talk to you because there's a lot of crazy stuff happening right now, and we're both similarly handling it. And really, to get to the chase, seeing this as a really great opportunity to focus even deeper on what you want and how you want to feel and where you want to be. And Carrie's got a great article she'll share with us, but we figured we would share what we're doing, how we're coping, how we're focusing, what we've added into our routine, if anything, to um, double down on making it possible to be in well being and in a good place, because I know that can be hard right now. Honestly, for me, my daily routine hasn't changed much because I don't have children who are home from school. Um, I already work from home. I don't leave my house that much unless I'm walking. So, other than, braving the airport the other day, I really haven't been that affected, which is wonderful. But I also understand that a lot of you are dealing with some really strange configurations of life right now. So, um, we're here for you, and whatever we talk about will be applicable to you. But don't feel like we're trying to tell you how to deal with this. We're just offering what's working for us right now or not working. And yeah, you can pick and choose if anything feels like it would be helpful to you. So why don't you go into Carrie? Because you actually are displaced right now but for a couple other different reasons too. Oh, are you muted?
Yes, the reason I am muted is because we are remodeling our pool and there are people in the backyard jackhammering right now. So, as much as I can be, I'll try and keep the noise level down. But that's why I'm here in my bedroom instead of downstairs in my office, as you guys usually see me. Okay, so I just want to tell you everything that's going on where I live. It's probably similar to where you guys live because it's happening pretty much everywhere. But in the past week, a lot has changed in our daily lives with regard to the coronavirus outbreak and scare and things that are being put in place. So we had a huge victory at my house this morning because we went to Target and they had toilet paper. So they didn't have a lot. So Target opens at 8. I got there at 9:30 because my husband had a doctor's appointment this morning. So on the way home, we went to Target and there was like, I don't know, maybe 24 packs of, not 24 packs, but 24 packs of toilet paper left. And all the rest of the shelves were already bare. There was a ton of shelves in Target that were still bare, which is really unusual for us to see in our local. It hasn't been unusual in the past week, but has really unusual locally. So anyways, my poor husband had a doctor's appointment because he's got 2 broken wrists and a bum knee. But we have a family of 5 and we need more than 4 rolls of toilet paper. And so I'm like, and then limit it to 1 package per person. So I had to call him in the car and be like, can you hobble in so you can buy a package of toilet paper? So anyways, we're set for a couple days on toilet paper. But the things that have happened is my children's schools have closed, like I'm sure many of your children's schools have closed. And thus far, where we live, the schools don't really know how to handle that. They're not set up for online learning. They don't have online curriculum. I have lots of friends who are teachers and they are trying to figure that out. So the schools are trying to figure it out. Initially, my husband and I also help coach cross country and track. And on Friday of last week, we had our last practice. On Thursday, they were like, you can't do mass gatherings, but you can still have practice. And then Friday, while we were having practice, they said no more practice. So luckily for us, I run my business online and I knew how to set up Zoom meetings. And so we're still able to meet with people that way. And that's been great. Great for these kids who feel just like they don't know what to do. They're not allowed to leave their houses. They're not allowed to gather with each other. And they don't have any sort of school instruction. They don't have anything, like, they literally don't have anything to do. And so that's been interesting. So it's been nice that at least our little group of cross country and track kids were able to meet virtually and connect. And, we give them workouts so they have something to do. We're still allowed to be outside. We're still allowed to like go out in public and run and exercise, just not super close to anyone else. But beyond that, restaurants are closed. I'm sure, are they closed where you are, Rachel?
Yeah, you're not allowed to dine in.
Yes. Yeah, so there's still takeout. Um, and it's interesting how people are reacting. Some people are angry because this is a huge inconvenience. Some people are angry because they run small businesses and this is really going to affect them. I was telling Rachel, I was telling you before we went live, or maybe we were already live. My husband has been home from work already for about a month because he fell into our empty pool in the backyard and broke both his wrists and hurt his knee. And he's had the TV on almost nonstop watching the news, and has been definitely his focus has been on the stock market and this feeling of catastrophe and loss. So anyways, that's what's going on around here. That's not necessarily my perspective in terms of what's going on, but like that's what I'm seeing, and I'm betting a lot of people are seeing that, right? A lot of fear around, are my parents going to get it? Are my children going to get it? Are my immune compromised friends going to get it? What's safe? What's not safe? Where can we go? I think lots of uncertainty, and then maybe a little too much watching of the news. Although I'll be honest, I'm not someone who watches the news, and I do feel a responsibility to check in and be informed. And no, maybe that's because of my family and my responsibility to the high school kids, but I do feel like more than ever in my life compelled to see what's happening on the news. So yeah, that's what's going on with me. We can talk perspective, but yeah.
Well, I think we should because, you know, in my view, which doesn't have to be your view, everything is still the same. We still create our own reality. We're still vibrational beings living in a vibrational world. We're still expanding what we focus on by looking at something. And so, you know, I feel like there's this saying that's been happening, I think, since like the 2012 thing. Like, you can't take your baggage with you. And so a lot of big triggering events have happened over these last 8 years, and they're rattling us so that we can see what we're still carrying around. Are we carrying around fear of a pandemic? Are we carrying around this idea of weakness or fear of death or whatever it happens to be that's in you right now that's being triggered? I certainly have stuff still. Everyone probably does. But when it's triggered, that's our point of asking ourselves, how do I want to deal with this? Do I want to succumb to the fear? Do I want to perpetuate this in my life? Do I want to keep this going? Do I want to renew this every day by focusing more and more on what makes me afraid? Or do I want to, and again, this may not be your view, so it wouldn't really make a difference to you, but do I want to remember even more that I'm a vibrational being and I create my own world and do the things that bring your focus there? So I've been making sure to meditate and do my like positive aspects and like find good things to focus on and remember that I am in control of my world, and like asking myself, how do I want to feel today? What do I want to focus on? What do I want to create today? And I've been doing more intuitive art to help me find those things if I'm in a place where I'm feeling a little on edge. And so here's kind of where I like to look at it too is if we've been carrying around all this stuff, just think of it as like emotional debt. right? We're in the red. We're holding stuff that doesn't feel good and we're not even aware of it until something like this happens. And then we're all freaked out. We didn't know, but it was already within us. And so this is an opportunity to deal with that debt, let it go by focusing on the positive so that that can just drain away. And then we have even more space for allowing what we want. Everyone I know wants really big things. We want financial freedom. We want love. We want creativity. We want security. We want fun. And we can't allow ourselves to have that if we're carrying around all this emotional debt. So I'm just seeing this like as hard as it gets, that's an even bigger opportunity to focus more on what we want and replace all that old yucky stuff with the good stuff. So that's how I'm viewing it right now. And again, it's not like perfection. It doesn't have to be. I'm not feeling great 100% of the time. I'm still washing my hands. I'm still checking the numbers when I feel inspired to. But I'm also focusing more on where I want to be than on what's happening.
I think that's where I am too. I think hold on, someone's coming in here. I would prefer that you didn't, but all right, that's my husband wandering by with his broken arms. I think I'm in the same place too. I am aware of the significance of Jim walking by over and over and over again as we're live. I'm aware of the significance of this moment, right? This is something that we've all created, right? Or like I create my reality, but this is global. This is on a global scale. When we're hearing about, my daughter's history teacher emailed her and said, never in history have we seen something like this, right? And so I look at stuff like that and go, wow, kind of like what a great time to be alive. Never in history. Look at this amazing shift. And I'm aware when you look back at history, right? People have, these are, I don't want to say make it or break it times, but times like what you're saying, where you get to choose where you focus. And that makes all the difference. And so in this moment, I'm looking at who is, in my social media feeds, etc., like who is spreading fear and panic, and who is spreading hope, or who is spreading opportunity, or it's so fun for me from my business mind to see new, like, ingenuity, creative solutions that are coming out of this. So instead of just bemoaning that, oh, my event got canceled, or we have a friend, our last time we went live, I was talking about the girl on our team whose father committed suicide. They haven't been able to have a funeral for him, right? Like, that's weird. That's different. But like, instead of bemoaning that, right, what are we doing? How are we going to come together around that? Like, what ingenious thing can we create? And what you said about not taking our baggage with you, I totally forgot about that. Like, we've had that conversation lots of times, and I'm not sure if it was you or if it was our friend Cynthia who had that picture of it looked like a pyramid stairway thing. Was that you?
That was Cynthia. Yep.
Oh, okay. And how, like, each time you go up a step, right, the little, when you go to the airport and you have to see if your baggage fits in the carry-on?
Yeah.
Each time you move up that little carry-on baggage thing gets a little smaller, mm-hmm. Right? And so here we are in this moment. And the article I wanted to tell you about, which this is how it relates to all of this, is my friend just sent me a beautiful article that she copied and pasted. So I asked her for the link because I would love to share it with all of you guys. But the title of the article was, "What if the virus is the medicine?" And it spoke to what I think so many of us were already feeling. Like, and I even remember saying this on the last day of practice with the kids, like, I know we're bummed about this, and our meets in the foreseeable future are canceled, and that's devastating. And I don't know about you, but I could really use a break. right? Like I could really use some rest. I could really use a little bit more of um, sitting and being and remembering me and having the time to connect with my children and my husband and like simpler times. And even on my walk with my kids yesterday, we just went to the park and they were sort of bummed out like they can't play with their friends, right? They just have each other. And I was like, isn't this is like pioneer times, right? When families like just gathered themselves up and went someplace new and all they had was each other. And we have our devices. We still have Netflix. But yeah, there's a part of this that is such a gift. And for me, the gift is I'm not driving all the time. I'm not taking people from this practice to that practice. I'm not actually at the moment, I'm still reading 1,000 emails from the school. But once that all gets figured out, like I don't feel so scattered, right? I know where I am. I know who I'm with. I know what's important to me. And it's giving me the time to, just like you said, bring that focus back in so that I can really, I don't know if narrow it is the right word, but focus my focus. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I am.
And you can really see if you look closely this idea of how people create, because I flew home the other night from Connecticut. I had two flights to get home. And during one of them, there was this like popping sound and then a really weird, like kind of smoky smell when we were like over the airport, not yet quite descending. And it didn't bother me. But when we got to the ground, right when we landed, we were met with like a whole bunch of like paramedics and fire trucks and stuff. And I've flown lots of times, and I've never had that happen to me before. And it turned out to be nothing. But it took a few minutes for everybody to check the plane out, make sure that we were okay before we went and taxied to our gate. And I thought then, like, this is just because people are so worried right now. Like, people are, like, this is what happens when people are worried. And then this morning I got woken up by the biggest earthquake in Utah since 1992. And, people are just freaking out. And if you, if you participate in that, like, to a bigger degree than you usually do, you're probably going to start seeing stuff like this more and more, and it's going to bother you. I think it's also a really good time to have this discussion about like conditional versus unconditional. Yes, this is a great time to evaluate where your focus is and how you're feeling and what makes you feel good, and but it's also a good time to remember, like, we can be unconditionally happy. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. We have the choice to be unconditionally happy or calm or excited or anticipatory or whatever it is that you want to be, regardless of what's happening and regardless of how others near you are feeling. That's another really big one, because you don't have to be affected by what other people are feeling. It takes a lot more focus, right? It's a skill. Focus is definitely a muscle. But it's possible to get there. And wouldn't that be nice if there is someone near you who's totally freaking out and you don't want to be able to know that you don't have to go along with them and you get to have your own point of view and it's just as valid as theirs. And that is such a sense of freedom, you know? Um, so yeah, I just love looking around me. Well, that's not even true. I'm not looking around me to see how others are dealing with it because that just invites more contrast. But I am noticing when something in my world shows up that's a little weird, and I'm like, oh, huh. Is that just because I'm surrounded by worried people right now?
You know what? I like what you said about that. And yes, I'm sharing a home with it's so interesting actually to see my kids and my husband and myself and just sort of like our natures. And I'm recognizing the daughter that looks the most like me. Like she looks a lot like me. She is very much, her nature is much more like my husband's, which they call themselves realists. They think that they're practical, but they have a tendency to focus on what is. And myself and my other two children, who are younger, we tend to focus on the way we believe things are. And it's been interesting just to see our dynamic, right? How it's showing up right now is my daughter is complaining about what is, and by the way, we're the worst parents ever because of, all these social restrictions, right? Like, it's so not fair, and she's taking it very personal. And of course, this is totally age appropriate for a 15-year-old, but that's interesting. And then my husband, right, his focus has been on the finances and the stock market, and same thing, like, he's taking it very personal. And I just have a much more like worldview, right? I think my tendency is to look at the bigger picture always. And just like you're saying, my perspective is about, I think I generally tend to ask myself, what's the gift? Mm-hmm. Right? And knowing that anything that shows up is an answer to a big ask. And it is an answer to people's focus, right? It's showing up because of people's fear as well. But I also believe in like if it's showing up in my reality, right? Like, it's showing up in my world, that this is the answer to an ask, right? And so I'm looking at the how of that. Like, lots of times really great things happen that don't seem like great things. I never remember what parts of the conversation we've had on these live streams, but when my husband fell in the pool and broke himself, I remember like laughing at like, okay, this did not show up the way that I was thinking it would show up. And definitely him not having use of his hands and not being able to walk was a huge inconvenience, right? I could have looked at it, and I sometimes did, as like, this is a huge pain in my butt. I didn't ask for this. But I also looked at the things that were coming from it that I was asking for. More one-on-one time with my husband, I had just been in the process of asking him, like, I want to know things about you that I don't already know. We've been together for like 20 years, and I've learned so much about my husband that I didn't already know. And so I feel like that's how I'm choosing to look at this, right? This is the answer to my big ask, or many of my big asks, but it's also the answer to our big ask, right? On a global scale, this is showing up. I believe we live in a friendly universe, right? So this is showing up for all of us to help us. And I don't know if that, as I often do when you're talking, I spiraling off in another direction. But that's how I'm feeling about that. And I think that helps me with my focus. It's not just looking for a silver lining. It's not just that. I mean, I think there's value in that, right? If you're in a crap situation, it's always good to look at, okay, well, what's the good that's coming from this? When I was little, I must have watched Pollyanna like 1,000 times, right? Playing the glad game.
I've still never seen that. I really need to.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the whole thing about Pollyanna is she plays the glad game, right? What can I be glad about? Which is the same thing as we're talking about focusing on gratitude or focusing on appreciation, right? It's where you put your focus. Anyways, I forgot what I was saying, but that has been really helpful to me. I think where I am right now, and maybe I could use your help with this, and maybe people who are watching can use your help with this, is, okay, when Jim fell, it made everything stop for me. Like, everything that I was working on just sort of came to a halt. And it caused me to come to this place of recognizing my life wants me to stop. My life wants me to slow down. And I took that to mean, okay, it's time to reevaluate. It's also time to, like, I just can't keep saying yes to things for the sake of saying yes to them. And then this happened, and I felt like it wasn't just me that was being told to stop, but like the whole freaking world was sort of being told to stop and to slow down and to reevaluate. And I am in that place, but I'm a little bit in a place of now what?
You know, I'm gonna cut you off in case you
Yeah.
weren't done because I see things a little bit more neutrally because you're the creator. Your life's not the creator of you. So your life doesn't ask you to stop. That's just what manifested from whatever you were focusing on or whatever he was focusing on and whatever you were allowing yourself to, right? Like it's your life doesn't ever ask anything of you. The universe doesn't ever ask anything of you. You are the boss. You're the boss. And so there's still like seeing satisfaction in whatever shows up. That's still you creating. Like there's nothing wrong with how you're handling it. And if you see it as, oh, this is a good time for me to reevaluate because I'm noticing like I was doing too much. That's a perfect inspiration for you, right? Like so it's not like it's just that fundamental view of no one's asking you to do anything. You're creating. And if you want to create something else, focus on what you want. That's all.
So I know that intellectually, but here's where my brain went with that.
Okay.
So I know, which is like one of the most dangerous phrases, right? I know that. um, so I get it. I understand all that. And I created the coronavirus, right?
But so if you are focusing on it, that's your participation in it. You didn't create the origin of it, right? Like, did it begin with you and then everyone else got infected? No. But however much you participate with it is your choice, right? It's not your choice if it's out there or not, but however much you focus on it is your choice. And that's where you come in.
So this leads to a place where I didn't know we were going, but this brings up something interesting. So my focus on it is not to live in fear all the time, but just like you were saying, I wash my hands, I'm taking social distancing seriously, and I feel like that is myself participating in the solution, participating in helping other people.
So it feels good.
It feels responsible.
Okay.
It feels like the right thing to do.
So
It
see, that's the
feels
difference. Like, if it feels good, then you know that you're connected to you. You're on your path, right? But if it just feels, not so good, then you're not focused in a way that's creating a better future for you.
well,
Not
here's my
not to say you need to have a perfect thing here going. I'm not saying
no.
that, but that's just yeah.
No, but so my bigger question is like, okay, so staying home and not being with her friends does not feel good to my daughter,
Hmm.
right? Like, what would be better for her? What would feel good to her would be to like have a great big party and get together with all her. Well, I don't know about have a party, but like have practice again, go running with her friends again, hang out, go to the beach together, be super socially close. Um, and that would probably feel good for me too, right? To like be able to like I have a couple friends who we used to run together and now we don't as we are being responsible citizens. So I guess that's where I'm asking about the feeling good. Like my brain is saying allowing Quinn to do that isn't it might feel good, but it goes against what I believe or what I think I don't know exactly the right words, but I can tell you getting what I'm saying. So, what
Yeah.
about that?
Well, I can't know what she's feeling in her body, right? No one else can judge anyone else's alignment. We don't know. And so I can't speak for what would be the best thing, but you know, in my experience, which is all I have, doing what is truly in alignment has always served me. And doing things just because other people say I have to has not served me. And so that's something that you can talk to her about, right? You can say, here's how you can see like what you're really feeling and do the yes no with her or do intuitive art. Like there's ways to help educate her to be more articulate about her alignment and where she is. And then it's your turn to say, well, am I going to trust my daughter's alignment over what the world is telling me to do? Are there ways that we can have her be safe and still go outside? Like, can she just stay a couple feet away from her friend? Like, I don't know. I'm not the parent, but there's, I feel like there's always a way to be in alignment. And it's a personal thing because only you can feel what's going on in your body.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. As a parent, I'm wanting to, right, teach my kids about being in their alignment, and I think I do a generally good job about that. Um, and I can feel my resistance and my fear around this. And I think that's just every parent's quandary, right? Is like
Sure.
trusting trusting your kids, right? But I know, I don't know. I imagine if I said, okay, let's just check in. Let's that her response would be like, sweet. I'm gonna go over to Lindsay's house right now, and that wouldn't be in alignment for me to take my daughter over to Lindsay's house, whose mom is immune compromised, who even though, right, like
Mm-hmm.
so therein lies the issue. It's a, it's a new thing for me to think about in that way.
I think it is for a lot of people,
Yeah.
like there are people right now who are deciding, do I go to work or do I stay home? Right? Like all those people who are putting the toilet paper back on the shelves. What I think a lot of people right now are just being faced with decisions. What's more important to me? How do I really feel about this? What's going to happen to me? And there's no, we're not really taught how to deal with all this stuff, right? And especially because we can't band together physically, it's harder to be supportive of people. And, you know, it's like every man for himself right now. And I'm just I'm just doing what I can to stay centered and doing a lot more daydreaming, to be honest. Like, okay, so this is where I am right now. Where do I want to be? That's the most important question to me right now. Is like, where do I want to be? What am I creating right now? This moment right now is our power moment. This is the only place life exists. So what am I going to do with this moment? Am I going to be worried that if I go to the store, I'll get sick? Well, that doesn't do anybody any good. I either go to the store and feel good about it or stay home. But I can use this moment to think about amazing things and amazing situations and what I'm doing with my company and how I can focus more on love. And, you know, it's it's so simple and fundamental, and yet we rarely ever talk about it or do it. But we so have a choice at each moment, and the more um, focused and aligned we are in that moment, the easier every next decision will be. You'll just know what to do. You'll know how you feel. You won't have to think about it or worry about it. You won't be in the room when the thing is on the TV. You'll be inspired to go to take a walk and see something beautiful. Um, I feel, I don't know, I feel blessed that my life hasn't been turned upside down, and I'm not worrying about, have I done something wrong with my life or something. Not that everyone is. I'm not saying that, but it's not that big a deal to me. And yet, of course, I'm still being respectful because that's what's coming up. I mean, I love people. I don't want to contribute to anyone's fear, but I feel like the more in tune you are with yourself, the easier it will be going forward, the less you'll even have these things come up for you. And when they do, you'll be glad because they'll be excellent focusing moments.
Well, and that it right as someone who is the Pollyanna, right, who's looking for the silver lining, like that is the beauty of this. Like I'm always believing anything whenever like I see what I would perceive as a curveball thrown at me. I I'm always looking at it like, okay, well that was unexpected. And how is this part of or not how is this? It'll be fun to see how this was part of the miracle or this was part of the like that's what I like looking at. That's the way I like looking at it is like, okay, when this is over, we're going to be able to look back and go, oh, that's how it all fit. Oh, this wouldn't have happened or couldn't have happened. All these good things that have happened in my personal life, say 6 months from now, right? None of that could have happened had it not been for that moment when the coronavirus hit and we had to do these things. That's the fun part for me is recognizing it's all working out. Mm-hmm. It's always working out. And I think that's every time I ask a client, right, if they've got to write a letter to their 15-year-old self or write a letter from their future self or whatever it is, right? The main message is like, relax. Mm-hmm. You're going to be fine. It's all working out. That stuff that you're worried about right now, it's not a big deal. It works itself out. You're going to be fine. And that's really helpful to remember. Mm-hmm. Like, it is all working out.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
And the other thing I want to say, wow, my light is so weird and blue in my room.
I know you're very like glowy, and I'm kind of orange at the moment.
Glowy, in a different color. It's interesting for me to look at this the same way, and I don't do it. It's not a habit of mine, but a lot of people are asking a lot of things, right? We're asking for freedom. We're asking for security. We're asking for autonomy. We're asking for respect. We're asking for so many things, and yet we don't have the capacity to allow that in a lot of cases, or we would have it. And so I'm seeing kind of like this, our asking created the solution. People working from home, people having more time with their families, like all the things you were saying that are benefits of this. But if we could kick up the allowing, the focus, the worthiness, the feeling good, then it wouldn't be such a bumpy ride, right? And so, again, do your meditating, do your feeling good practices, do your daydreaming, because then you'll have an easier time allowing what you want instead of it having be this earthquake-laden pandemic with, plain smells and noises.
I love what you're saying. I love it. And I'm just thinking of all the ways this is already like, right, where there was this moment of division worldwide, right? And yet here's this pandemic that like unites us all. And when you're talking, what I found interesting when you said, we're asking for more freedom, we're asking for more, yes. And it's all in how you look at it. Like there's lots of people looking at this going, this is less freedom, right?
Well, that's because their belief system won't allow them to have what they're asking for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love it. Well, you've given me a couple things to draw on. So I'm kind of excited about that. I would like to do a personal drawing, and maybe everybody who's watching, that can be your next step, right? Is do a personal drawing about at least for me, the drawing is about what is the gift that this moment in history is bringing me personally. Um, and I'm thinking about what am I supposed to learn from the coronavirus, and like I've got a few things brewing in my head about that, which
Nice.
I haven't drawn on yet.
Yeah, I love the what is the gift. For me, it's like this extra opportunity to focus. It's like I moved up to the next round of weights in my practice. I'm ready for something stronger, right? Um, and it's all wonderful.